Today's story is It's in the Forest by CreepyFace, aka Face Melter with a bunch of numbers instead of letters. Not going to read that username. I followed a man into some woodland located by my apartment. I wish I didn't. Around 6 a.m., the sound of the train that runs nearby woke me up. Naturally, I had to go to the bathroom, so I went and then made my way back to bed. On the wall to the right side of my bed, there's a window that I'm forced to look at before I get there. When I looked through it, there was a man there. He was walking on the path that leads to a forest by my building. He was wearing normal attire, blue jeans and a zipped-up dark blue hoodie, but there was something about him that just seemed off to me. It was his eyes. They were wildly widened, but seemed to stare at a particular direction, as if they were dialed in on a target. Admittedly enough, I'm one of those people who likes to investigate and get down to the bottom of something, and for some reason that really bothered me. I stared. The man looked suspicious to me, and he made his way through the small gated area that borders the forest. The town I live in hasn't had any crime in a while. I have a car, but I like to save gas if I'm given the chance, so I walk to work, because I usually take those woods as a shortcut. Without a doubt in my mind, I would eventually feel like this man and I will cross paths in there. Or maybe he would stalk me, especially with me being the observant and slightly paranoid person that I am. Also, I like to forage for bones in there. I know, it's strange. I do that because I work for an antique shop that sells oddity art, which I make. You'd be surprised. People purchase things like that at a very high price. I didn't have to work until 9, but I decided to stay up and catch up on a show that I've been working on until it was time to leave. On my way to work, I decided to bring a blade with me, just in case. Everything was fine though, and the day was just another day. Unfortunately, the next morning while in the woods, on my way to work, I found a small dog near the way I normally take. Its head was missing, and the blood looked fresh, and I was shaken to the core. And needless to say, I called the authorities, and I informed them of it, and spoke about the person I saw yesterday. I told them it might be connected. They said they would send a couple officers to come around in the morning, but I didn't hear or see anyone. When I called them again in the morning, I asked to be transferred to a local precinct. But they told me it was probably just an animal that did it, and that there were no reports of people who had missing pets. I ended up burying the dog myself that day and called off work. The whole time, I felt eyes on me. I was both sickened by the lack of concern from the authorities and pretty terrified that there might be a psychopath preying on small animals by my apartment complex. After that, I decided to set an alarm for 6 a.m. to see if the man would walk by again. And sure enough, once I peeked through the blinds, he was there and made his way into the forest. I noticed that he had the same outfit as before, but they appeared torn and stained with grime. He was carrying a duffel bag as well as a backpack over his shoulders, which looked like they were dripping a dark liquid of some kind. Even in the morning darkness, I could clearly make that out. This was wrong, and my heart began to race. Before I left the window, he stopped dead in his tracks. I gasped, and just as quickly as he stopped, his head literally snapped in my direction. His eyes met mine. I ducked down, quickly hoping it was fast enough to get out of sight, but I knew deep down that he saw me. The strange and completely insane thing about this was that I'm on the second floor and the pathway is rather far away. In my head, at least, I don't think any normal person would be able to spot someone peering through the blinds just enough to be about half a fingernail's length. It was unnatural, but you know me, I had to know. I had to follow him, right? I got back up and opened the blinds slightly. He was gone. I grabbed my pocket knife and a flashlight and made my way to the forest. The wind howled all around me, and I walked to the path that leads to the woods. Dark red stains littered the sidewalk, and I aimed my flashlight on the ground in front of me. Following the stains that I could only assume to be blood, the entrance met my gaze, so I gathered all of my strength, ignoring that my legs buckled, and I entered the forest. Sticks and leaves crunched under my feet, and I tried my hardest to muffle the echo of my steps. Still following the trail of what I desperately hoped wasn't blood. Moments after I kept walking, the trail came to a halt and I was forced to go off instinct. I've hunted with my dad before, and he taught me a little bit about tracking, so I knew what footprints looked like in the woods, even if they were human. Thankfully, the sun came to my aid a bit and was making its way to sunrise. I could follow him a little better now, and the blood was now somewhat visible. As I walked further, I could hear some sort of gurgling noise along with the sound of sticks snapping. I looked around to see if anyone was there, but no one was around me. I motioned to where the sound was most noticeable, and my feet grew cold. What was in front of me will haunt my mind forever. On the ground, the man's clothes were scattered and stained with blood. The man's bags were also opened and had pools of blood inside of them. A hole was dug up, but in the bottom was a gruesome mess of blood, a pile of intestines pulsed around a collection of bone, hair, and skin. I was frozen from the fear, and my body was trembling. After a few seconds of staring, my phone went off, and I quickly snapped out of my daze. It was an Amber Alert, and a young boy was last seen in my town just an hour ago. There wasn't a license plate included, and I knew exactly why. I looked down at the slithering organs. The top of a head was now moving slowly out of the viscera, and fingers could be seen. It was also at that moment when I realized that the chime from that alert just gave my position away. Something rustled in the leaves behind me. I forced myself to turn around. I pulled my knife out and flipped the blade open while still aiming the flashlight. But what I saw was not human. It stood easily over 7 feet tall and almost had the appearance of a bird or a stork. A beak protruded from the middle of its round, monstrous face, and the eyes. I recognized those eyes. Only now, they were massive, and they were aimed right at me. Its wicked body staggered forward slowly, and I immediately began running in the direction of my work while desperately attempting to dial 911. A vile roar erupted behind me, and I heard wings flap through the trees. I didn't stop running, and I eventually felt the air shift around me. At that moment, I felt very strongly that I was going to be killed. But to my amazement, I successfully got out of there and called the police once I got to work, all while pounding on the door for my boss to let me in. After they investigated that area, the blood of the boy on that Amber Alert was found in that hole. They didn't say anything about a pile of intestines squirming, and they didn't have anything to say about the creature I told them about. And they kept asking me what the man looked like. The 2 officers that took my statement told me a detective will be in touch the following day. That day around 4 p.m., I was given a ride home, and the officer got a radio call explaining that there were no bags or any other human DNA that could link to a perp. I got into my apartment safely, but once I flipped my light on in my room, I saw that my window was open. I don't usually think to lock the window because, again, I live on the 2nd floor. I made my way to the window and tried to focus on just closing it, but once I looked out the window, the man's head was peering out of the entrance of the forest, and his neck was freakishly stretched. The trees covered some of his body, but he stared at me with a bloody grin that stretched ear to ear, and I will never forget those eyes. I immediately locked all of my doors and windows, then I logged into my account just to write this. If I don't write back, I'm obviously dead. But I needed to tell someone about this before that happens. I don't know what that thing was. All I know is that it's in the forest. Hey there, friends. I hope that you guys enjoyed this wonderful story. It's in the Forest by CreepyFace. I am going to link to his channel. He is an up-and-coming narrator starting out on this, and yeah, show him some love. Sub to his channel. Check him out. Dude's an awesome writer and genuinely a good person. Just kind of spoke with him some on Instagram, and yeah, so like, I'll link to him. Go check him out. Let him know how he's doing, what you think. All that said, friends, if you enjoyed this video and like more content like this, or content that is so vastly different, it is like comparing Belgian waffles to rocket launchers, consider joining the Nevermore. To join the Nevermore, all you have to do is click that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. And you can do things to support the growth of the Nevermore, such as following me on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, or supporting me on Patreon or Coffee. All these optional, and every one of them greatly appreciated. All that said, my lovely friends, I hope you have a beautiful day and a wonderful rest of your week. Weekend is coming up, and that is a beautiful thing. For some of us. For others, maybe not so much, but, you know, I hope you have a great day anyway. Alright, friends. Talk to you later. Have a great day. See you in the next video. But until then... sleep. Well...